You're welcome back. And now let's deal with one of the biggest news in the course of this week. And that was IMANI Africa, the think tank, organizing a press conference and telling the world what was going on about in our petroleum fields. And that one AKER Energy was sort of, taking control, and government didn't seem to have, its way with it. And certain things were happening that could cost or get Ghana to lose as much as, 30 billion of money that should rightly come to it if the government did not, as it were, assert its rights. Let me read a few messages to you, then I'll proceed to the next issue. Haruna Iliasu says the CID boss is reducing policing to a laughing stock. Did she weigh the sensibilities attached to the missing girls saga before openly declaring the girls were found? Well, the gender minister confirmed what she said and said the girls have been found. So we should be asking the gender minister too. So Iliasu continues here. Iliasu continues that this cannot remain an April Fool's prank on Ghanaians. The blunders are too many within the police service. Ejadam, you are back again. If the girls have been found, it makes very little sense why we should be kept in suspense for 3 weeks. The police should expedite action so as to have the girls brought back to their parents. Gideon Okran says the Daily Guide editor should be asked to face the law court for peddling untruth story or prove his story. There's no point at which you can take them to court on this matter, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Right. Now, let's go to AKER Energy. And let's listen briefly to these statements that were made. Even though he's here in the studio, let's hear him repeat them. And when we are done, let's also hear others, including Peter Amawu, who had something to say about this. The government was invited to this issue as well, but as you know, it looks like there's a malicious story which interpretation, because interpretations differ, they won't come on this show. So somebody was actually heading this way, an expert who is actually in the ministry, and it appears there was a whipping to return. Well, you can enjoy. Let's listen.
Should not be allowing these things. It's $30 billion to a poor country. We should be up and doing, and all of us must be working hard to protect it. We won't get all of it. We'll get some of it. But we should get as much of it as possible. So this shouldn't be happening. And we think, Mr. President, if you are aware, please act. We really call on the President to ask his men what is going on, what has been done, and we plead with him, give us some information. We are enjoined in our Constitution to do things like this, so that we'll protect Ghana, its resources, and its people. One of the curious situations concerning AKER is that even where we have negotiated extra interest, like the 10% in HES and up to 49% in the SDWT, we have refused to take them up. I am aware that these interests were negotiated in the previous GNPC. They were negotiated, Parliament approved them, and in certain instances, the money was made available. I have spoken to some of the persons who were involved in that. Now, the present GNPC has refused to pursue them. So specifically, Azuri, I can say this for now. The present leadership of GNPC has failed, refused, or neglected to pursue agreements and arrangements reached before they came into office. One of the partners of AKER is Fuel Trade Limited. Fuel Trade Limited is a Ghanaian company, and by our law, you need to have a Ghanaian partner. It is a good thing. We are happy to have Ghanaians partake in our oil industry. So we are happy with Fuel Trade. However, Fuel Trade is allegedly owned by Dr. KK Sarpong and his family, or his family. Our problem is Dr. KK Sarpong is the CEO of GNPC. GNPC is the lead national expert entity. You don't have any expertise anywhere more than GNPC with oil. And they handle some of these negotiations, etc., and deals together with other state institutions like the Ministry and Petroleum Commission, etc. If it is true that there are connections between Dr. KK Sarpong and Fuel Trade, which is a partner in AKER, then maybe GNPC or Fuel Trade is negotiating with itself. It doesn't look right.
It also alleges that AKER has extended the period of the petroleum agreement from 2036 to 2049. Ladies and gentlemen, this is untrue. Just to check and see whether an agreement is extended from 2036 to 2049 can be done with, everybody can do that. My little daughter can equally do that because she can clearly read between the year 2026 and the year 2049. The extension of petroleum agreement is a reserved, authoritatively done by only the representatives in the House of Parliament. IMANI, unfortunately, lacks understanding to inform you that fuel trade came into the petroleum agreement during the NDC regime. At the time, Dr. KK Sarpong did not know if ever he will become the chief executive of GNPC. And under the NDC, we are all aware of the kind of politics that was practiced at that time. You either belong to them or you are not part of the cake. And I don't see how they were going to open the door, as His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo has opened the door to everybody. If Dr. KK managed to get his way through, then kudos. But I can assure you that the current beneficiary owners of fuel trade, it's common and visible for everybody to see. All that you need to do is to walk to the Registrar General and determine who the true owners of fuel trade is. We wish to state that we, as a country, we are meant for development. As a country, we want to get everybody on board in whatever we do. As a country and ministry, we are open up to the public. And it takes everybody, any particular time in time, from morning to evening, to walk to any of our offices to inquire for questions or ask questions, and then we will provide answers.
Right, so you heard Kofi Bento, he's right here in the studio, and then you heard John Peter Amewu, the sector minister. So, can we start this way? I want us to just see if we can clear, our table of what may be preliminary matters.
Right.
And then we spend the rest of the time in the, substantive issues. The issues you raised about conflict of interest, as far as KK Sarpong and or his family, are concerned. I'm sure you have seen the statements that have been issued by himself and also by, Fuel Trade?
Yes.
Stating clearly, and this statement is also what you see Dr. KK Sarpong's statement, and says you got it so wrong, and basic due diligence with the Register of Companies would have revealed to you that he and his company or his family are not connected to this entity. How could IMANI get it so wrong?
Well, thank you. So, I don't just get up and say these things, and it's come up, so we are going to have to discuss it. The issue is that we did do the due diligence. And in these matters, we are talking...
When you say you did due diligence, you mean
the team
you went to the Registrar General?
Yes, the Registrar General. We saw the names of, Mr. Chinibwa also, and then French Kujo, and some other names. We didn't see the name of Dr. KK Sarpong.
You didn't see his name?
No, we didn't see his name as a nominal owner. And we've worked on this for almost a month. And in the industry, the people we spoke to...
Sorry, wait.
Yes.
You didn't see KK Sarpong's name?
We didn't see KK Sarpong's
So what was his name doing in your press conference?
That is why we chose our words well and said that it is alleged. We have heard allegations, and it kept coming up. And you know, there were other names that were thrown up. You know, people who were working for AKER, people who were supposedly, you know, peddling influence for AKER, etc. Some of us, you know, felt that, look, you shouldn't bring in some of those things because people have a right to work for AKER.
Tell me if I'm too much in a hurry.
See, you should give me time to explain.
You say you get information, you verify from the right source.
Yes.
And you confirm that he's not there.
He is not.
And then you are still saying you heard information he's alleged. Why did you have to work with that?
So give me time to explain.
Okay.
You may understand because you know the concept of beneficial ownership, especially in these situations. And let me just give you a small thing about beneficial ownership. Defined. A beneficial interest is a right, advantage, or benefit that a person enjoys from assets nominally held by others. For instance, in a trust relationship. A beneficial owner may or may not control the asset, but its benefit may accrue to him. Concepts of beneficial ownership have become important in asset tracking. In tracing beneficial ownership, attention must be paid to persons in control of decision-making, whether they are named officers of the entity or not, de facto directors, cash and asset movements, flow of transactions, and other qualitative actions. These tend to be more effective than simply referring to officers of an entity or nominal records of ownership. The point I'm making is this. As people kept saying these things, and that's why we said it is alleged. Look, all we have to do is to say or prove, and we've been threatened with a lawsuit. I would not continue to talk about these things, okay, except that you asked, so I will say it. And again, we are not making an allegation. We are repeating what we've heard. All we have to do is to prove that there have been allegations against the gentleman. And we said, if it is true, it is necessary for him to clarify. I think it is in his interest. He's come to do that. We are fine with that. Okay.
No,
so,
but it's
no, he is not fine.
In the court of law, it will be more than there was allegations.
It will
and
be
you
more.
simply fed on the allegations.
So we would have to be able to. I think at least some people, and I think I sent you something, even official complaints and allegations recorded. So, you know, again, because all kinds of things are being threatened, it is not good to discuss all these things. But what I can say is that we did our checks, we chose our words carefully, and our position is that people keep saying this is why this is going on. And what we said is that please clear it, because if it is true, it is not good.
Okay.
And it has been cleared. We believe that
no, it's just not been cleared. And we'll not move from this point until you tell me this.
Very well.
He says, you got it wrong on this note. And on the basis of that, you have done him injury. You should retract and apologize within 14 days.
Give me the time. He says we accused him of that. We did not accuse him. We said it is alleged. We did not get it wrong that people have alleged this. If push comes to shove, what we have to show is line a dozen people, okay, who have made those allegations to us, and possibly maybe show an official allegation. Evidence is not counted, it is weighed. If I can show that somebody has made even one allegation, then I can stand and say that it is alleged. And
you are saying that the fact that you use the word allege absolves you from any liability if the facts are inaccurate?
No, you see, what are the facts I put out? The facts were that we have negotiated things with a certain company. It does not look like we are pursuing what is rightfully ours with the company. And people are suggesting that this may be the reason why. And I think it is not fair because the gentleman is not on any paper as the person doing it. So please, clear the air once and let's deal with it. And like I keep saying, you see, this is a powerful place. I am restricting myself.
So why didn't you tell your public that this is what you knew and that he was not involved, like you have just explained?
Good. Let me tell you why. Because certain members of the team felt that we should put out some of the details of some of the allegations. Some of us felt no, because when you start putting out some of these details, it's wrong. So we, out of 20 or so slides, we used one slide and said that it is being alleged. If it is true, it is worrying. So please clear. You see what you just said? If I had done that, it would have been worse. We simply said, look, here's a man who has cut his teeth in the private sector, made it, come into the government sector. If you are in public office, you must have a wider latitude for being questioned about your stewardship. And so we kept it very simple. It is he who is continuing, which is why we are having this discussion. I'd rather go into the depth of the specific issues.
No, but you see,
I stand by
what you said.
What we said was
significant, and the media chose to narrow down on him and speak directly about him being in a conflict of interest situation and putting him in such a manner that's so bad. So the point is that people have asked the question that what would you have done if I had information about you, for example, and I'm going public with it? Would you expect me to call you, check with you first, or that I just go out to the public and ask, I'm asking you a question, Kofi Bento, answer?
I will do this. I will check. And when I check and I see that it is not there, I would alert you and say, please, this is what is going on.
Okay.
But please make a statement in your own defense.
You didn't check with him?
No, we didn't check with Dr. Dr. KK. We checked and saw that nominally his name was not there, which is why we said these are allegations. And it is okay for him. You know, we are discussing this because he's threatened us with lawsuits. You understand?
Yes. Do you want to avoid the lawsuit? Do you want to say I'm sorry because you could also get it wrong?
The truth is this. We have been accused of lacking intelligence or whatever it is. We don't have any problem apologizing for things that we haven't done. But we are responsible for what we say, not what people understand. We said some people allege. We just have to prove that there are people who have alleged. Now, he says we have accused him. We haven't accused him. Okay. We asked him to please use the opportunity to clear his name. And people in the industry understand what I'm talking about. Okay? Now, like again, if we had time, I'll tell you why I respect Dr. Sarpong. But I think if you insert yourself into public office the way he has, and under these circumstances, maybe you should take these opportunities to clear your name. And I'm saying me. Now, if I go, and this thing is ongoing, today people have called me, give me all kinds of other information. Anybody who raises it, I'll refer you to what Dr. Sarpong has said. So our view is that we did not accuse him. We actually raised an issue which apparently is notorious, and he has come to clear it. Okay, if we can show who has been doing that.
Now let's get to the substance. But before that, let me get, it's not all the time you have a senior journalist, the type of Kakubako, to share, you know, a platform with. So on just this issue of allegations bordering on conflict of interest, from the explanation he has given, if you were a publisher who did that and you were being asked about this, what would you have done?
Well, I've had such experiences before. I think that, to be very candid, and Kofi and IMANI, they are part of my contemporary heroes. You recall that the Kofi Annan thing, I listed them. They do great job, to be honest with you. Without people like this and organizations like IMANI, I'm not sure we'll be where we are. So I give them great credit for what they've been doing for this great nation. But on this call, I think Kofi and IMANI goofed.
On KK Sarpong and fuel trade?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
There's a hint of an innuendo there, even though you say allegedly. It's an innuendo.
Oh, well.
It is. You are insinuating. And if it's left to the public domain, they would think that, yes, Mr. KK Sarpong is involved in some conflict of interest. If the man hadn't rebutted, if Fuel Trade too hadn't rebutted, what is the judgment that people out there go with it? That, yes, there's some conflict of interest matter there, and for that matter, it's shady. I think on this call, they goofed. It's the best thing to do is to do what I'm asking Osafo Mafu to do.
Okay. So can I say something now? We don't accuse Dr. KK Sarpong.
It's an innuendo.
Well,
you cast an innuendo.
You know, I'd like us to focus more on the substantive issues because of the time.
Really,
let's hear Samuel too, and like Koko did, very briefly. What would you also say on this call, on the allegations made against Fuel Trade and KK Sarpong, and having seen the responses both of them have given, and having heard Kofi Bento now, what would you say?
On this particular score, I would want to be fair to both sides. I think that there's more that we need to demand. In other jurisdictions, these are matters that come up for foreign corrupt practices investigation, because we know that in the oil sector, people front, people veil, there are offshore accounts, and you are a journalist. So I will not rush, because I know how I read a lot
We
of...
rushed with such allegations
You know,
against
so-
George Owusu and the
Yeah, I
EU
didn't make
and
allegations.
dragged them to the Department of Justice in the US. Huh? We made them suffer. Eventually, turned out it was all rumors.
Yeah, but an
Let's
offshore,
Samuel
an offshore,
finish.
but
Yeah.
on the EU case, an offshore account was established. You know, so
Established to what effect? You are talking of the Foreign Corrupt Practices
Okay,
Act.
let's
And I'm
not
saying that was
digress. Let's not
investigated.
digress.
It was investigated.
We have
and all the
only 1
allegations
hour
were
to
proven
deal with the
to be
substance of
false.
this very important issue.
because something, you
So,
know that,
yes.
The allegations were false.
you know, I am being balanced.
Let's keep to
and I'm being
let's
fair
keep to
to
AKER energy
I'm
matter
being fair to
and
both sides.
potential loss of 30 billion.
No, but he
dollars
brought
to
in the
Ghana.
Foreign Corrupt
Yes.
Practices
Yes,
Act.
Be-
He did.
because we have
We
heard,
shouldn't complicate
you
this
know,
matter.
we have heard from industry players that his son is at fuel trade. Is it? Am I wrong or right?
Well, you are forcing me now to say things. His son apparently works in fuel trade as a chief financial officer.
And,
And he has one other
But
relative.
what
But
does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
Move on.
But that is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you see.
so you see, we have also
Let's
heard
go
things.
to the issues.
We've heard a lot.
Rumors.
But it's not about rumors.
Which
So,
is why we chose our words carefully.
so for now, I say that let's proceed cautiously and let's deal with the
I
substantive
think we
issues.
feed them should
Okay.
just do the honorable thing. Retract, apologize, so that we can focus on the substance.
Apologize for saying things have been
For
alleged.
casting an innuendo.
For casting an innuendo.
Yes, I
Okay,
think
you
it
see,
was-
you let's
you see,
finish the
when-
substantive issues.
when-
I beg you. When we do that.
When you are chief,
Yeah,
when you are
because
chief,
it's not somehow.
when you are chief executive officer, and your son is in a
another relative.
And you're talking about
a
a contract that
high-
predates
it's a
your
high
coming into
level
office.
It's
Thank
about
you.
when they came
of
in.
a
A
company.
contract
No,
2015.
2015. Oh.
Yes, but
14, that predates your coming
mean you
into
don't have influence
office.
today.
Is that not
it
significant?
doesn't mean you don't have interest when that company
No.
still has an interest.
Have
You
you
were
checked
not
whether-
chief
And-
executive in 2014 when
Mind
the
you-
contract was secured.
Yes.
Mind you, there's a new additional 2% that is coming. This is a growing interest. You see, there
So
are
are
many
you
sides to
suggesting
this.
that there's a non-disclosure of interest? Are you
No,
suggesting?
there are principles of beneficial ownership. That's
Beneficial
why I read.
ownership.
It has nothing to do with nominal listed directors. There's something called de facto directors.
Yeah, but
and
right
so
now-
those concepts.
So it's not as
I really
simple
think we
as
should go into the
so-
substantive
so-
because
but
maybe
yeah.
I will be sued and
Yeah.
we'll go and talk about this.
I see your point.
Yeah, so I want to
I
ask
see
you
the
this
point
very
there.
final one on it so that we clear it and move on.
I hear him.
Beneficial ownership is the reason in 2016 we brought an amendment to our company's law
you.
and we have added it to our company's act. My question is, fuel trade has a categorical absolute denial. They deny in absolute terms. You have read their statement.
Yes.
KK Sarpong also denies in absolute terms the allegations of association or whatever, himself or his family. And there is a demand. Is IMANI willing to say we are wrong or
So,
we are sorry?
Let me answer it. Let me
Okay.
answer it. We said there have been allegations. They have denied the allegations. Now they are demanding we apologize to them or retract for accusing them. Our position is that, dear Dr. KK Sarpong and Fuel Trade, we accept your denial of influence and we accept that those allegations that have been made against you by others which you repeated are not correct. We have not accused you of anything.
Okay.
And to that extent, we think we can let this matter rise.
Okay, so
Yes.
let's get to the substance.
Yes.
And to, I think, 3 major points.
Okay.
And the minister responds to them.
First.
To start with, your major claim of seeking to new discovery being annexed by AKER without going through the right process, and how you came by the amount, the calculation. Can we get to that?
Very
there are
easy.
other people who have other figures. I'll show them to you.
Very easy. Thank you. I am going to read from the AKER website itself and their
Okay.
own statement.
Okay.
And I read, it says the Peckham Field Center will have the flexibility to tie in subsequent development of resources. In addition to the reserves to be developed, in the first phase, the area holds discovered contingent resources of up to 210 million barrels of oil, combined resulting in an estimated volume base of approximately 450 to 550 million barrels of oil. Total resources in the area have the potential to increase to between 600 million
to 1 billion barrels of oil, provided successful appraisal drilling activity. Data analysis and appraisal drilling are currently ongoing at Pecan South and Pecan South East. I am reading a statement that AKER has made, that they have found oil. In this industry, when it comes to estimating a find, the estimate is not based on recoverable or potentially recoverable asset. It is based on the discovered. The minister says we lack the intelligence, and we don't doubt that at all. We don't know anything.
Okay.
But we know what we've read here, and it says that according to AKER, up to $1 billion, but they have confirmed up to 550 million. If you multiply 550 million, please anybody do the arithmetic, by $65 a barrel, the value of the discovery is 30 billion minimum. And they have said it's up to $1 billion. We will not go into that.
Right.
The minister says it's not simple arithmetic. We don't understand what we're doing. We don't know too much.
Don't focus
but
too
this
much
is simple
on
arithmetic.
the minister sounding
No, I don't want to
insulting
focus on the
whilst
insulting things.
he
but
responds to you.
I simply want to
what
say,
do you say to
allow
this?
me,
What do you
please.
say to this? Like Gabi Asare-Chidako writes, he says, it looks as if, IMANI, you simply multiply the estimated 450 to 550 million barrels in the Hess block after the AKER, the Peckham discoveries by $65 per barrel. You just confirmed that. The truth so far, he says, is the estimated average recoverable rate of oil in Ghana has been well below 25%. So
here's the point. You know, Samson, I am responsible for what I say. I am not responsible for what people's lack of comprehension. That's one. Number two, when I say something or we say something and you want to deal with what we've said, don't set your own question and answer them. In the whole industry, when it comes to estimation of fines, what is used is discovered, stated, and that's why I'm reading my own statement. I'm reading AKER. Okay. So please, we are not talking about estimated recoveries. And indeed, I say, based on all the things our experts have also told us, nobody, only God, knows how much you can recover in any situation. So again, our position is the value of the oil we have found, which everywhere in the world is estimated according to discovery, not according to recoverable, is over $30 billion. And it's simple arithmetic.
Okay.
Yes. Now, should I go to the next issue?
Proceed.
Now, you know, the minister then talks about the issues of extension, that we seem to suggest that he, the minister, should go and sit down and do an extension with Field Trade. No, we did not suggest that. Again, we are responsible for what we say, not what somebody understands or misunderstands. I am reading from the AKER POD, okay? And I usually don't bring documents, but I have to do it this time.
POD is what?
It's Program of Development.
Right.
And the position is this. At page number 8, Section 2.2, heading says Resource Management Strategy and Extension of Petroleum Agreement Term. We don't purport or suggest that the minister should or can extend it. In fact, we've said that. It is Parliament that does that. However, AKER in their POD here have made categorical statements, some of which I'll read to you. And the contract they are working under says that you would have to agree within 30 days. If you do not agree within 30 days, it is assumed that these things are approved. You and I as lawyers know that there is a principle of laches and acquiescence. That principle says that when somebody has written things like this to you, and you have seen them, and they are material in nature, but you do not respond to them, it will accrue to the right of the person and be deemed as having crystallized.
It may.
It may, yes.
Yeah.
So I said in the presentation that if we don't deal with these things now, later we'll have to go and argue that indeed you don't have it. But they have written it here. So let me read some of the things here, you know. And on this page 8, it says, the Peckham Field resource optimization will be dependent on a planning and utilization horizon beyond the present term of the petroleum agreement. So to enable full resource optimization, an extension of the present term of the agreement, which expires July 19, 2036, is necessary. Based on the most likely Peckham reserves and P50 production profiles, the contractor's calculations show that production until the end of 2046 is economical. Accordingly, the contractor applies for an extension of the term of the petroleum agreement until 2046.
Okay.
This is an express application for an extension. And one of the points we made, and others have made, is that the POD is not the place to apply for an extension. And this one, you don't need to consult anybody on it. It is wrong. Then they go further. They are not just applying for the extension. They go further and say, and I'm reading from page 5, point number 4.
Well, what the minister said, and which is correct, and which is law, is that the extension cannot be by someone's wish or someone having put anything on a paper, but by Parliament saying so.
We said the same thing.
Right.
But what we are saying here is that...
And so the fears may be unfounded once there's no document in Parliament calling for the extension and Parliament doing so.
I have no fear that they can do this. My issue, I've repeated it, I'll repeat it again, is that when the person states it in a legal document expressly to you, and the legal document says that if you do not respond to this, it shall be deemed, it will accrue to the person's right. You have to go and argue it away. And I'm saying, why do we risk that? So that point also stands.
No,
and
but how does that work? When
I'm going to show you how it works.
There is a prerequisite of parliamentary approval or Parliament actually doing the extension.
I have said, and I'll say it again, we know they cannot extend it by this. We said that this is not the document with which to request an extension.
So what is the alarm about?
The alarm is that when you have these things stated, and I want to read other things for you,
okay,
and you do not respond to it, it becomes an accrued right. Now you have to go and say that, no, you don't have it, etc. But they'll tell you, but we told you this and that.
Again, you say it becomes. You should say it may.
Become.
Okay.
They will assert it as an accrued right, because they have actually stated it here.
Okay, proceed.
So please, let me go ahead. Yeah. Page 5.4 says that the key features of the Pecan development project are that Pecan economic field life ends in 2049. Page 5. They stated that there.
2049.
Yes.
Okay.
2049. I am now again reading page 8. Page 8 says that.
Page 7.
Page 7. I'll go to it later. 7 says recommendation that the parties hereby request the approval of the Honorable Minister of this integrated plan of development, including everything said. This includes all development and production activities and other petroleum operations related to the petroleum resources in the development and production area, as well as extension of the term of the petroleum agreement till 31st December 2046. They've requested it in writing. Then they go forward and say, government approval of this POD within 30 days period as set out in the petroleum agreement, together with satisfactory resolution of the contractors group conditions precedent, will be a prerequisite for a final investment decision late in April 2019. Then they further say, and under subheading, conditions precedent for this POD. The execution of this integrated POD for the development and production area is made conditional on the following. 1, that government approval shall be given without conditions and without terms imposed that negatively affect the project economy for the Pecan field development and that do not negatively affect the execution of the petroleum operations or activities related to the petroleum resources as described in this integrated POD. And for your information, the project economy, they've worked it till 2049. 2, subsequent development of petroleum resources within the development and production area shall be subject to the same fiscal terms as for the DWT CTP, the other field. Pecan field development, the term of the DWT petroleum agreement is extended, please, is extended through 31st December 2046. The point we are making is that this is of no issue. The only importance of this is that they have written it to you and the law says get back to them and say, please, you are wrong, withdraw it, remove it.
And you say
and we said
there can be a culmination of accrued rights.
A culmination of accrued rights, then now we have to go and argue.
Now what we need to be setting about, and you know, both of us were taught in law school. When you are talking about accrued rights and you have not followed the law's prescription,
thank you,
you cannot talk about accrued rights.
Yes.
So once again, my question is, what is the alarm about?
The alarm.
Once you don't follow the law's prescription, requiring Parliament to do this work, and Parliament has not been invited to do same, what is the alarm about the loss of 30 billion, potentially?
No, in the first place, we never said there will be a loss of 30 billion. You played the video.
That is if.
No, we said
We need to go and negotiate. The thing is worth 30 billion. We need to go and negotiate our portion. Otherwise, we'll stand to lose something. And I said, whatever little we'll get, we need to go and get it. So as for the
Okay, so now focus on the fact that once the law's prescription is not followed, there cannot be an accrued right. So what is the alarm about?
This is the alarm. That we've sat down to all this time and allowed this to go on. And we were told that, they were going to respond, and they responded finally. And I'm saying, when you allow some of this to go, then you create a situation where we now have to go and argue, which is why we said, okay, and presently as we speak, the minister said that there is still no need for a new petroleum agreement. So we said that if it turns out that the ministry or the minister does not agree with us, but agrees with them, then we are going to take this matter up and have the law interpreted to show that these extensions that have been suggested, applied for, and made conditions do not apply. Our fear is that how come AKER seems to be saying things which are even in breach of law, but they've not been responded to? And I repeated that over and over again. My alarm is, why is there no response to AKER? And we said that over and over again. And we have even said that if it turns out that they start asserting some of these rights, we will have to go to court and say, this is our property, it happens under our law, and we will have the judges interpret the law in our favor. Okay. So it has to do with expeditiously dealing with a matter which is serious.
So you are familiar with the June 26, 2018 letter from the Ministry of Energy. And it goes to the Chief Executive Officer, AGM Petroleum Ghana Limited, and it says, rediscussion on terms and conditions in the SDWT Petroleum Agreement. And it says, reference is made to your letter on the above subject matter. We have studied the content of your letter carefully and have come to the conclusion that it is not in the best interest of the government of Ghana to renegotiate the terms of a closed petroleum agreement. Any such review would amount to us trying to execute a new petroleum agreement, and this will require the full application of the Petroleum (Exploration and Production Act 2016 Act 919, and all laws and regulations that have been promulgated subsequent to this act. We are therefore not in a position to accept your request for a review of the terms of the AGM Petroleum Agreement. Yours faithfully, Boakye Jaku. You are familiar with this. What is its significance as far as the matters you raise are concerned?
Significance is as follows. This letter is a letter written by the former minister, Boakye Jaku, and we cited, we made a reference to it, that AKER, after inheriting HES's concessions, HES, after working under a certain petroleum agreement and having discovered oil under those agreements, okay, now having sold to AKER, AKER inherits all those agreements as they are. AKER proceeds and requests that we should renegotiate the agreement, to which Minister Ejakun writes and says, no, we will not. No, we will not.
Okay.
Okay. And the point I asked a certain official, and he said, well, we are considering everything because it looks like there may be grounds, okay, for us to take another look at the whole thing.
Okay.
And the point we make is, well, what informs a shift from this position if there has been a shift? And the ministry should please tell us, because AKER seems, if you read the POD, okay, to still want a renegotiation. They have stated in their POD that subsequent actions shall be based on the old fiscal terms and not under the new law.
All right.
Our question is, if you are subject to a particular law in this country where you are working, why do you insist on which law you will be subject to?
Okay, so respond to this quickly. And you know Everon Hughes, don't you? He asked a question and he posted that directly to you, where particularly in your statement you say that AKER Energy is walking all over the government and that nobody is actually asserting the position of the citizens of Ghana, which is part of the alarm you raise. He says, in one breath, you say you have a copy of the recommendations to the minister and that you have not cited the minister's response. We all heard you say that. Then he says, my first question to you is, where in the recommendations did you get the impression that AKER Energy is working all over government? If you don't have the minister's response, how do you arrive at this conclusion? I think that is a legitimate question to ask. And for the avoidance of doubt, he says, I put it to you that AKER Energy has not, and is not, and will never walk all over this government. And there's the evidence from what Amewu puts out, and we'll deal with some of that shortly. So how do you respond to that? You don't have the response, and yet you go ahead to make a conclusion.
No, I do. I did have the response. And
no, you said you didn't.
Can I speak? Can I
Okay,
answer?
go. Yeah.
We said in the forum that we have cited expert recommendation to the minister.
Right.
And I'll say here, including the recommendation of the Petroleum Commission, which went about a week. So they have done their work. And I'll say again, I spoke to Egbert, who is my friend. And Egbert says that, well, we've sent our recommendations and many of the things, were there. And then Egbert adds that, well, the minister has to consult because indeed he is not bound to take our advice. So if you ask me this question, I'll say that I did not cite the minister's response at the time we were going to the forum, but I had cited the expert recommendation to him. And the nature of those recommendations was said that there was nothing to wait for. And so I was worried about the delay. And I asked, how come...
That doesn't answer this question.
No. I'm answering the question. You said, he is saying, I said, AKER is working all over us.
Yes.
And that I cannot defend it. So let me do it. Number one, AKER takes over Hess oil. You know that when you take over something, you take everything that it comes with it. We had negotiated a 10% extra in that. We don't take it. Okay? Nothing happens. It doesn't look like anybody is pursuing that one. Okay? How come nothing happens? Now you've just read a letter here that says that they suggested that we should renegotiate what they have taken over from Hess. Okay? And we said, no, we will not renegotiate it. That's what Bachidaku did. Over here, they are repeating the same things and telling us that they are going to do future work based on the old law, which law we have repealed and gone into 919 because we think 919 is better. How can somebody come to your country and tell you which law he's going to use, okay, to do work within your country? Let me continue, please. Now,
I need to bring in my
if you ask me a question, let me answer. I have a list of about 9 things here.
At the moment you were expressing the concern because the deadline was the next day, right? The deadline was the next day. The action that required to be taken to allay your fears had been taken. You were unaware.
No, Samson. My point is that we did not need to wait till the last day. In fact, as of that day when we checked, we didn't have information that it had gone. When we finished the forum, somebody who checked on said, oh, I just got my copy. Okay, as for when people put this fine, I am happy the letter has gone now. My concern remains. If somebody is doing something which is illegal ab initio, you don't need to wait 30 days, especially when there are clauses there which can cause problems for you.
All right.
So, and you don't want me to go through the things I'm talking about here. You are asking why is AKER seems to be getting everything this, when they even made the announcement that they've made the oil fines, okay, there was a contention amongst the experts, and I've spoken to some of them. Indeed, the minority also made a point that these were not new fines. They were extensions. AKER said, no, they are new fines. All right? Now, as we speak, we can't have it both ways. For me, I'm happy that Ghana benefits. If what the minister is saying is true, that, oh, they are not new fines, then the minority was right. Okay. But if they are indeed new fines, then we need to have a new PA. It cannot be any other way. Okay. So how is it that how are they able to say what they want to say, even in the face of different facts? Okay. So, and I can go on about some of the other things referring to the conditions they put in the POD for which there was no response
just take a breather.
A day before the day.
Let me get quickly in. But before that, I don't know how your facts will tally with this summary of sort of what the government has put forward so far. And they include that on the 28th day of March 2019, AKER Energy submitted its POD to the Minister of Energy. On receipt of the POD, the minister, per a letter dated the 29th day of March, that's just a day after receipt, forwarded the POD to the Petroleum Commission and requested it to review the same and make a recommendation as to whether it should be approved or not. The Commission did a thorough review of the POD using the provisions of the law that's section 27 and 28 of the Petroleum Exploration Act 2016, and also Article 811 of the Deepwater Tunnel Cape 3 Points Petroleum Agreement, which constitute a checklist of 29 that AKER was obligated to satisfy. The Commission came to the conclusion that AKER's POD did not meet all the checklists and accordingly wrote an advisory paper transmitted by a letter dated April 17, 2019 to the Minister, giving reasons why the POD cannot be approved, and recommended that AKER should be made to revise the POD in the light of the reasons given and submit same within 45 days of receipt of the Minister's letter. The Minister, on receipt of the Commission's letter and advisory paper, studied same and wrote a letter to AKER on the 24th day of April 2019, informing it of his inability to approve the POD in its current state, and directed AKER to revise and update it, taking into cognizance the reasons it attached to its letter, and submit the revised POD to his office within 45 days of receipt of the letter. So the conclusion here is that IMANI's claim, which it did at the press conference, that on 25th of April 2019, AKER had invoked a clause in the petroleum agreement to the effect that if they do not get a reply from the Minister regarding the submitted POD, it shall be deemed approved. What AKER did not know was that the Minister had written to AKER on the 24th of April 2019, a day before IMANI's press conference, and then informed it to submit a revised POD, thereby making AKER's trigger of the 30-day time limitation redundant. So, by a simple arithmetic calculation, you would have shown IMANI that the 30-day time limitation had not lapsed on the 24th of April 2019, when the Minister sent the letter to AKER. And I needed to go through all of this summary. What is the point that you find from IMANI that we should all be alarmed about? Look, there were experts at IMANI's press conference who agreed with IMANI, who were alarmed, and who felt there was the need for urgent action.
Well, let me be honest with you. Technically, professionally, I do not have the requisite competence to interrogate all the issues at stake. But of course, since I'm a social commentator of a sort and a public advocate, when such matters come up, I try to also research and do the search for information and documentation, which I have done in the last 24 hours, just to be able to be better informed and well educated on this issue, still with that range of imperfection and ignorance, if you like. Listening to Kofi carefully, I think there was one challenge they had. There was a certain deficit in terms of information. And I'm being candid about this. You apparently even alluded to it. The IMANI forum was 25th, was it?
Yeah. Yes.
Of April.
Yeah.
The day before, 24th, certain things had occurred that you were not aware of.
It is claimed.
Oh, it's documented.
I'm okay with it.
They do not have facts to the contrary, so we keep that as fact.
It's documented.
Yeah.
See, I checked, I got this advisory paper from the Petroleum Commission to the ministry.
Yeah, I've referred to this.
Yes. I've also checked on some other documents, including letters, correspondence, and things. It is a fact that 24th April, the minister communicated to AKER the decision that they are, is it the plan of
POD, plan of
POD could not be approved because of some defects. And that
So
they need to come.
essentially, Imani's major fear had been taken care of.
Yes.
One of our
At the time the fear was being expressed, it didn't exist. There was no basis for the fear to exist. I don't think they were being mischievous. I think they were being patriotic. These are people who have checked on their record in terms of their input and things. I'm unable to sit here and read mischief or malice. But they're not perfect.
They had written at least twice to the minister.
No,
so how come this would have happened?
No. But that's why I
had
said
at least 1
the day before, they had met. They met the ministry and had some discussions.
So you know
Am I
about
right?
that?
Yes, I know.
But the minister says we didn't
No,
check.
they did.
So
They
fine,
did.
Thank you.
Okay, but by the time the letter was written and dispatched, they didn't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they genuinely didn't know.
We accept that.
So that deficit informed some of the claims that were made. They are not perfect. They are not infallible.
We accept that.
So all
So
you have to do...
for a ministry that had been engaged by Imani, asking questions, which questions they had answered on the 24th, did they have any obligation to inform them about it, which could have prevented the
I don't know if
We asked the
ministry
ministry the first set of questions around the 10th of April.
Yeah,
Okay.
it
And
still
we had
doesn't-
If
subsequent
the
meetings.
minister had informed you on
Yes.
the 24th
Yes.
that a letter has gone,
Yes.
would you have done your press conference though?
I pledge and I say it here. We planned the press conference about 4 days to the time because of the deadline. And I pledge and say it. If we had that information, we wouldn't have gone ahead.
Thank
and
you.
Minister,
We will
may we-
continue.
Exactly,
we
ma'am.
have our friends there. We
Exactly,
are in
ma'am.
touch with them. They call us. So I will not, like you're saying,
Okay.
we will not
Thank you.
argue on that
Retracted
issue.
Koku's
But as at
submission.
when we were going on, we did not have that information.
Okay.
You
Thank
You're
you.
happy it's
Koku,
gone
proceed.
zero.
Yeah.
Thank you. You see, because even the agreement, that is the petroleum agreement, this point about the 30-day
Yes.
deadline, which I think within 28 days or so when the ministry did trigger their response. But because if you read the agreement itself, section, is it Article 813?
Yes.
After 30 days following its submission, the development plan shall be deemed approved as submitted.
As submitted.
Unless the minister has, before the end of the said 30 days period, given the contractor a notice in writing stating that the development plan as submitted has not been approved and the revisions proposed by the minister to the development are submitted and so and so and so. Now, so the agreement itself contains a cure so that the 30 days, the minister, the ministry, the Petroleum Commission were obviously aware of this clause, this article, including AKER. So to be honest with you, there was no cause for alarm until the 30 days passed without the minister executing or operationalizing these parts. But because they were aware, and because the commission, the Petroleum Commission, when they received the AKER request, and the law insists on that, that the minister must ask for advice from the Petroleum Commission. I have the Petroleum Commission's advice here that had gone much earlier, say that no, we cannot approve this plan in the form in which it is now, and that it ought to be sent back to them for them to do revisions. Okay, so in actual fact, in terms of the processes and procedures, there was actually nothing amiss. I'm saying, and Kofi, I'm glad that he's admitted, that if they had had knowledge of that 24th thing,
Yes.
the
would have
25th
said it.
thing would not have happened,
Would have
or if
said
it
that
happened,
it's
they
done.
would even recraft.
I absolutely would
You
have
see,
done
so
that.
then, really, to be honest, there's no case.
Do they have a basis to say AKER was walking all over the government? And
No, I
and
don't.
putting
If,
us in
if they
danger?
were well informed about all the processes, the correspondence, the communications, even the fact that Petroleum Commission looking at the thing with its technical eyes says, no, this will not be approved. The ministry agreeing with the Petroleum Commission, writing to, where was the walking over? Okay. The decision is taken that, look, we will not approve this at the level of the Petroleum Commission, based on the technical competence available to them.
All right.
And then the ministry with its political leadership also agrees that we will not go along with AKER. So who was walking over who? We were standing firm on our position backed by law. You see, and some of those things, the agreements and things, I don't know, you are the lawyers, me, I happen to be just a street one, and very bankrupt when it comes to some of these things. If you go to 97, 1 and 2, this is Act 919, I just want education. Repeal and savings. The Petroleum Exploration and Production Act 1984, PNDC Law 84, is hereby repealed. Then the two say, despite the repeal of PNDC Law 84, the regulations, rules, bylaws, notices, orders, directions, appointments, or any act lawfully made or done under the repealed enactment and enforced immediately before the commencement of this act shall continue to have effect until revoked, cancelled, or terminated.
So if they come and say, we are going to use the old law.
No, but the old law,
how do they say
the
that to
portions that are of relevance, in my view, or significance, have been retained by this new act.
Yes. Right.
Is that not what?
So the effect
you just read.
Let me explain the effect of what. So we've repealed what we want to repeal, and those ones that are enforced are enforced.
Yes.
You are going to give, or somebody is coming to marry your daughter, and the person is telling you that these are the terms I'm going to give you. They didn't have a right. And you see,
no, but you see, you are talking of them making an application. It's of no effect unless I accept.
I read more than one application.
If I don't accept,
they put
it's of no effect.
Precedent. Let me make my point. One small point.
Okay, please. Yeah.
This document, the POD, was illegal, incurable at birth. Because it had
from source.
From source, because
but it has not been approved. So it has of no effect. It's null and void. I agree. When you write that, you are entitled to write what you want to write.
What I want to say, Kweku, is that given the nature of incurability of this document, it did not need to wait that long. You didn't need to check whether the thing being incurably unlawful should be. Are you going to consult somebody on whether this is this?
If they had approved it, the two of us will be on the same score.
Okay, thank you.
But
thank you.
Based on the reality, based on the laws,
for God
based
and
on
country,
things, they rejected it.
I will be happy if we are back and we are
Shouldn't we rather be giving them credit
for
seeing through and saying that we don't want this one, go back, revise it, and all the time applying law, they were applying the law.
I am happy it's happened at last.
Thank you.
But where is the new petroleum agreement on the new fines?
Which new fines?
Good. So AKER has announced that there are new fines.
No, but that is, you see, you are taking their claim. Is that what? I don't know which fines.
Claim.
Can we?
Because the minister in his press conference said that indeed there was no need for a new PA. So the question is, have we found new oil, or are we still working with the old
whatever
wells?
fines have been made, they are within the same territorial jurisdiction.
Okay. See, so hold on.
Let me read this. This is the handing over notes. Maybe Ablakwa will tell us something. This is handing over notes, Ministry of Petroleum, 2016. See, HERS project. This is on page 44. There are 2 pages of relevance. It says, HERS has submitted appraisal reports on the 7 discoveries made between 2012 and 2013 and has declared commerciality for 5 of the oil discoveries. HERS proposes an integrated development of these discoveries, these discoveries, anchored on Pecan 1 well. However, progress has been constrained by the boundary dispute between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. Now you go to the same HERS, page 65. It says appraisal and pre-development activities. HERS, deep water tunnel through Cape 3 Points block. Is this what we are talking about? Because the other one, Ajako's letter
is SDWT.
Yes,
it
has nothing to do with this. Can I read this? I beg you. It says, HERS has submitted appraisal plan for 7 discoveries. Appraisal, note that. The commission grants HERS approval to proceed with appraisal of 4 oil discoveries after some discussions and some improvements of the plans. Appraisal plans for the Pecan, Almond, and Becquio, I don't know how to pronounce it, discoveries have been completed. The appraisal reports for Almond and Pecan discoveries were submitted to the Commission on November 2015 and March 2016, respectively, for review. During the period, HERS requested for new petroleum agreements covering the Paradise and Hickory North gas discoveries. Since the granting of PAs is beyond the mandate of the Commission, HERS was referred to the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum.
Thank you. Okay, so I need to do this. Hold on briefly for me. Hold on briefly for me and let me do this. We had told you that we were going to talk to some experts, and we have raised 2 of them on the phone lines. Dr. Theo Echampong, who is a petroleum expert, and also we have Alex Mould, who is a former CEO of the JNPC.
They should have been sitting here.
I made a reference to Gabi talking about the, discoverables and Kofi's response to that. And Gabi response back tells me that the fact we have to note is that Ghana stands to earn 55% or more of the net production of oil from the AKER field throughout its lifespan. That's better than 100% of nothing that we have seen since February 2006, when Hess was giving a petroleum agreement.
Under the old PA. Okay. Do we need a new PA
he says
or not?
That's where my focus is, getting the job done at terms that gets the job done and benefit all participants. So let me...
But he doesn't address the 10% share we are losing.
Yes. Let me apologize to our guest on the line and also to Okujeto Ablakwa here. But let's now speak to Theo Champong and Alex Mode. Are you both on the line? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Dr. Champong, tell us briefly why you think, if you do, that IMANI has any point, and is there actually a potential of the loss that IMANI speaks about?
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'll address that, but let me just take you one step back on the extension. Actually, when you look at the petroleum regulations that were passed in 2018, LI 2359, specifically in section 29.1, it says that an application for an extension for a new petroleum agreement in the form that shall be submitted not later than 5 years before the expiry of the existing petroleum agreement, unless otherwise determined by the minister. The point here is that even if AKER, they put 2049 in the plan of development, that does not constitute or have any legal or binding. That meaning that if they want to extend, the actual petroleum agreement over and beyond the initial 2039 or 2030-something date, they would have to go back to the ministry and apply for a proper extension to, extend the date beyond the petroleum agreement. What is in the POD just shows that they're actually being a bit more proactive and anticipating.
Okay, you mean there ought to be, Doc, you mean there ought to be a new PA, and as it stands now, from all the information you have, it doesn't look like we're going to have a new PA?
No, they don't need a new PA. A new PA would only be needed when the existing one has, elapsed, the 2039 date. And at that point, you still have some reserves that you want to produce. Then you would have to get, a new PA. That is when you have to do the extension. And then the law says that you must be submitted not later than 5 years before the expiration of the existing petroleum agreement. So as we speak currently, there is a petroleum agreement in place, and it is only 5 years before that expires that they can then make, an application for extension of the PA.
Right. You are a fellow of IMANI. You are a fellow at IMANI, but you are contradicting IMANI's position here.
Yes, we debated everything.
You are a fellow at IMANI, and you are contradicting IMANI's position here, that there ought to be a new PA now.
No, what IMANI is arguing in relation of the new PA is the question to do with whether what AKER has, quote, discovered, merits the government signing a new PA altogether. And from what I have read, the statements available on AKER's website, but also from other different sources, including the EMP Act and other subsidiary regulations, I think that, it's actually appraisal work that was undertaken, and that does not merit, a new PA being signed altogether. That is how I understand, the issues. I do not think, because in any case, they are within the same contract area and covered by the same fiscal terms and provisions. The key contention, really, the meat of the issue is that does what AKER claimed to have found constitute a new discovery, or is it, an extension of the Pecan discovery?
And your answer to that is what?
Has not been clearly.
And your answer to that is what?
What I have read and what I have seen based on the assessment, I think that it's more an appraisal, which is an extension of the Pecan discovery, rather than, you know, a new discovery altogether, which would then merit a separate petroleum agreement altogether.
So you are saying that you didn't advise IMANI, you are a fellow at IMANI, you didn't advise IMANI to speak the position you are speaking?
He did, but we have our debates and we don't always agree.
And we have a little extension, so relax a bit. Did you hear my questioning?
Yeah, can you please come again?
So I'm saying that from your definition and understanding of what is the new discovery, quote unquote, you say, what you say contradicts what IMANI's position. And I'm asking, you didn't give IMANI this advice?
No, that advice, you know, we had a debate and certain things apart, but my professional judgment based on what I have seen and read is that this new, you know, find or discoveries which is being actually confused constitute an appraisal work that they would have, that AKER did. And actually when you look at all the statements that came out, including the official ones from AKER, they specifically used, they were using the word appraisal and not necessarily, you know, new discovery. So I think, you know, in essence, what was carried out and what has been done constitutes, you know, an extended appraisal work, because the period for which the appraisal work that would have been done by Hess and with the ITLOS case and other issues just ensured that they could not carry out, you know, completely all the appraisal work that needed to be done. So the new partner comes in and then decides to kind of drill, you know, a few extra wells in the same development, in the same contract area, and that would be covered by the same petroleum agreement and fiscal terms. I do not think that actually constitutes, you know, new discoveries.
Okay,
and
so a yes or no?
When you actually look at the petroleum agreement itself, it was signed by Hess, the 2006 agreement. In the definitions, there's a clear definition on what constitutes a discovery in section 1.26. And the discovery means finding during exploration operations an accumulation of petroleum whose existence until that finding was unproved by, you know, drilling. The key word being in the exploration operations. And then there's also a different definition for what an appraisal program and then an appraisal well is.
Okay.
When you put all of that together, I think that, you know, what was actually done constitutes, you know, appraisal and not necessarily a new discovery.
How do you marry that with our leaders announcing new wells?
Propaganda.
That is part of the confusion. So the confusion is that the various statements that came from government sources and what was quoted on the media created an impression as though that these were new discoveries, which actually merit a new petroleum agreement. But what I have read around, what I have seen, including closely looking at the EMP law, looking at the LI 2359, the petroleum regulations, looking at the PA itself, and then also looking at the various statements that were carefully crafted by the different partners, it leads me to sort of more align with the school of thought that, you know, indicates that these were
right now, Dr. Theo Champong. Yeah, Dr. Theo Champong, I'm going to Alex now, but answer yes or no for me. Would you say that IMANI's concerns and alarm were unfounded?
No, I wouldn't say they were unfounded. As civil society groups, they have to raise the issues, and then you expect, of course, the government and the different bodies to respond to that. So to the extent that they raise certain issues and those issues, you know, have been adequately addressed, I think that should really settle.
Thank you. Let's talk to Alex Mould. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Mould.
Thank you for calling. How are you?
I'm very good, and thanks for asking. We're happy that you make time to share your expertise with us to understand these issues. But if we could go for the jugglers, so to speak, did GNPC make or negotiate a provision for 10% share in Hess?
Actually, it was negotiated by government of Ghana.
Yes, represented by GNPC.
What happened was, as you know, Luke Oil farmed into the block. Farming into means buying part of the interest of the contractor, which was Hess at that time.
Right.
Hess had 90% of the block, and GNPC had 10% carried interest of the block.
All right.
We saw it as an opportunity to increase government stake at the time when Lukoil was farming in. So we made it a provision. This was the negotiating team that the minister put together, which included GNPC and a few other entities. And we advised the minister that this is an opportunity for Ghana to increase its share on such a lucrative oil field. So this was done, and
did you put money aside? Did you put money aside for this?
Let me explain.
And did you get parliamentary approval for this?
Would you have time for me to go through the facts so you understand?
Okay, go on.
Once that was done, government requested GNPC to actually purchase the 10%. So it was an option that we had. At the same time, ITLOS had set in, and Hess had decided to suspend bringing the POD. The POD was necessary for GNPC to understand exactly the value of the field. It's an option that we were supposed to take, but GNPC will have to do its due diligence. That means that we will have to ascertain that all the costs that Hess had encountered or had spent up to that time, it made sense for us to pay that $47 million for the 10%. Since Hess decided not to go on with the POD and to delay till after ITLOS, GNPC also informed Hess that we would not make the payment till the ITLOS verdict came out. Remember, it's an option. We invoked the option before 90 days. This was even before the preemptive rights were put into law in Ghana. Preemptive rights were put into law in Ghana in 2016 in the Act 919, Section 18. And this happened in 2014. In 2015, we went to Parliament and sought approval to spend $47 million through our subsidiary Exploco. Because Hess did not continue with the POD, we postponed the payment to 2016, and it was delayed to 2017. So we put it in our budget in 2017, which we got approved at the board of GNPC in November 2016 for the budget for 2017. Somehow, the actual budget that was presented to Parliament in 2017 did not include this $47 million. Parliament has to approve spend each time you're going to spend. Whether you spend it in the year or not, the approval is only for that year. So you have to go back to Parliament each year for approval. My understanding is, and I haven't seen the actual approval from Parliament, but my understanding is that it did not include the $47 million spent for the acquisition of the 10%.
Okay,
so the question is why didn't it include that? Because it was in for 2016 and for 2015. Effectively,
the new administration did not effect what you sought to do. But the question I am interested in is, comparatively, what would have been the advantage?
Well, two advantages. When you're asking what would have been the advantage for what?
Of the 10%.
Of the 10%, I mean, for Ghana.
Well, 10% meaning that we will have, if the net present value of the field, as they're claiming, is about 3.8 billion, 10% of it is 380 million. We will have 380 million net present value. That means net to Ghana over the life of the block. Right now we have zero. So I don't see how, and my understanding is that GNPC actually wrote to Hess or to AKER stating that we did not have money or we were not going to exercise the option anymore. And my question is, why did we not have the money? Because it had been approved by Parliament. GNPC had a balance sheet which showed that we had cash, albeit the cash may have been used to guarantee some power installations. We had cash. GNPC could raise cash. And if GNPC did not have the money, you have to go back through the approval process, because the approval was not only at GNPC level, it was at the ministry level. The minister was the one who approved the 10% purchase for government of Ghana. He must have had approval from cabinet, because the minister just can't give an approval like that. He has to go to cabinet. So my question is, did we go through the whole procedure of going back to cabinet and asking cabinet or telling cabinet that we did not want to invoke this option? And if so, where is that letter from cabinet to the minister and the minister to GNPC stating that you can go ahead and not purchase the option anymore? And did we go back to parliament who actually approved the budget in 2015 and 2016 to tell them that we were not invoking or we're not exercising this option anymore? These are critical issues that we should ask.
That's what we're asking.
Okay. Just hold on quickly. And Dr. Sarpong, you are there?
Yes, I'm here.
What do you make of this sort of arrangement that the state was pushing, which we appear to have abandoned?
Which arrangement?
What's the benefit? The 10% shares.
I mean, that one is, for me, it's a little bit troublesome and worrying, because again, when I look at the facts, right, that the state national oil company GNPC had an option to acquire 10% a while ago for $47 or $49 million. That's before the deal was concluded. But that right, as I'm being led to believe, was never exercised. In which case they actually lost that potential 10% of the upside.
Yeah, and we have a zero stake now.
It's difficult now to go back to now actually argue to want to claim that 10% back. I mean, because that's like exposed. And in any case, if they want that 10% back now, it's got to be on the basis of the value of the field, which is based on the appraisal work and then reserves. So that then means that we have to pay a little bit more, certainly more than the 49 million, that originally we were supposed to have paid to have acquired, that right.
Okay.
And I think definitely
just hold it. Let me hear Alexis' disagreement.
Some answers need to be provided by the.
Thank you. Let's hear Alexis' disagreement.
Is on two things, and I'll get back to the first one that he spoke about with regards to the exploration versus appraisal. But the disagreement is on this particular thing.
Okay.
Our law, the Act 919, says that the government of Ghana has a preemptive right.
Right.
If a contractor is selling any part of the block, that means that we can ask for any part of the block that the contractor is selling. This did not happen when Hess sold to AKER. So if Hess sold to AKER 50% of the block for 100 million, that means that the 10%, we could have gone back and asked for the 10% at 20 million. So I don't see, if even we lost the opportunity because somebody did not go to Parliament for approval in 2017. In 2018, when the actual Hess-AKER transaction was done, the government of Ghana could have invoked the preemptive right as per Act 919 Clause 18. We did not do that. And the question is, why did we not do that?
Right.
Why would you give such a valuable option of
now, Mr. Mo,
when you have the right?
Right. Mr. Mo, that point has been made so eloquently. Now, I want to find out from you.
The other issue I wanted to raise was with regards to whether a new petroleum agreement was needed or not. Now, let's listen to this very carefully. AKER was doing appraisal. It was not doing exploration. If you're doing appraisal, all you are doing is validating the size of the existing the discoveries. If for some reason you go and drill where you think it is part of that discovery, and you find out that it is not part of that discovery, and the only way you find out that is you look for whether there's dynamic pressure communication. If you find out that that well that you drilled, that you thought was an appraisal well, that you had approval for from PC, that was an appraisal well, is no longer an appraisal well, but it's actually a discovery, meaning that it is an exploration well, then you have to go back to the law. The law is very clear. If that well is found not to be an appraisal well, that means it has no connectivity with the prior discovery, and this is a new discovery. That particular field that you have now found requires a new petroleum agreement. This happened with ENI Ghana.
Right.
ENI had to relinquish the block where it was not going to develop, and they later came back and we gave them the block 4, which is what they are now exploring on. We need to be very clear
Okay.
Because the technical leads the legal, which then leads to the commercial.
All right.
You see, if we allow this particular well that has been drilled, which is an exploration well, to be part of the appraisal, then they can use the cost that they have incurred in this particular well to offset it in the development of the Pecan development, which is absolutely wrong, technically, commercially, and legally.
Okay, so the operative word you've been using, of course, the confusion coming from exploratory well and also, what's the other one? If it's not appraisal well. The operative word had been if. Now, my question again to you, Mr. Mould, is what do you make of the suggestion that Ghana stands to earn 55% or more of the net production of oil from AKER field throughout its lifespan?
I haven't really seen all the economics, but what I can tell you clearly that number doesn't really make sense because Ghana only has 10% of the block, and the royalties and additional oil entitlements are the worst of any block given ever in this country. So I don't see how we will earn 55% of that. I have to look at the full economic model, the production profile, the cost of oil they use, the cost of producing the oil they use to actually ascertain that. But based on $60 oil, based on the production profile I have seen, I'll be damned if we get even 25% or 30% of that oil. We should have invoked that 10%. That would have given us much more value, and we did not invoke it.
I see. Is it true also that GNPC still has the opportunity to invoke for, is it 3%?
3% what?
Shares.
I don't think there's any 3% shares.
Okay. It's a question. I heard it and I wanted to just find out.
No, I don't think so. I don't think in this particular PA we have that additional interest whether we can acquire, like we did for the Italo.
Wait, Doc, I'll come to you. We are closing, and so Alex, you say that IMANI has good concerns and we should all pay attention.
I think that first of all, I believe the people at GNPC, the technical people, the legal people, and commercial people are very good, and they would advise their board as to what to do now.
Okay.
Whether that goes, to the minister, and whether the minister takes that advice is another issue. But I think what IMANI has done, coming out and bringing this out to the fore, is important for Ghana, and people should not look at IMANI as trying to, seek some sort of political gain here. It's important that we take our time. There is no rush, absolutely no rush, in us approving a POD, and we cannot allow a contractor like AKER or anybody, ENI or even ExxonMobil, to dictate to our minister and our government and give them conditions precedent, and also ask for an extension for a petroleum agreement when it doesn't merit it. You can only ask for an extension for petroleum agreement in two cases. The first case is when you have not declared commerciality. Remember, when you declare commerciality, you are declaring commerciality based on the existing petroleum agreement you have, the terms, the conditions, the tenor, and everything. You can't now come at the POD stage and say, oh, by the way, although I declared commerciality, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I need you to extend the petroleum agreement. It cannot be done. And rightfully, as the first person you spoke on the phone with said, you can also do this when you're about 5 years to the end of the PA, 5 years to the end of the 30-year tenor, where you may not have received as much rate of return as you have put in the POD. Then you can go and ask them for an extension. This is all subject.
Thank you.
To the minister approving it.
Right. Thank you very much, Alex Mould, for making time to share your expertise with us on this, and very practical, because that's a place that you were superintending at the GNPC. Now, Dr. Theo Sarpong, final words to you also. You wanted to make a quick intervention, and then finally, what do you have to say?
Something supporting what Alex said. I don't think that we're going to get 55%, over the life of the field. The experience actually shows that at the minimum for this particular PA, we're going to get 17%, which is the 4% royalty 10% GNPC's, participation interest, and then an additional 3%. The 55% that is being bandied about is on the assumption that the company will pay corporate income, the petroleum income tax of 35%, and then the additional oil entitlement of between 5 and 20. But that's all subject to the company, one, recouping their investment costs and then declaring, extra profits on which it can then tax. So at the minimum, for now, within the next, 10, 15 years, we're actually going to get or be stuck with the 17% that we have. And then, over the life of the field, yes, it's possible, but that's all subject to the, the cost constraints and how much we can actually interrogate the cost that will be posted by the companies. I think just in conclusion, IMANI has actually done right by putting the issues out. And it's also good that the government is also come out to, clarify some of the positions and the issues that were raised. And that is what should be encouraged in any sort of participatory, democracy. We need to be aware of the issues, and we all are fighting for what is in the best interest, of the nation. And both sides must be commended.
Thank you very much, Dr. Theo Champong, speaking to us from his hub. I'm sure that's it from Aberdeen. Well, and his last point, and that of Alex Mould. Unfortunately, within our, polity, it's unfortunate. IMANI is loved and hated at various times. It's just like the media, like multimedia. At one point, they say they are aligned to NDC. At one point, they say they are aligned to NPP. It's funny, but you get what? We have a constitutional duty to perform. And we have an obligation to the citizens, and we all must do it. But let's all make sure that we're doing it accurately. We're being fair in the process. Yes, so final take for you, Sammy.
Yeah, Sam, let me commend the experts. They should have been here. They have educated us a lot. And,
but they vindicated us.
And they have also vindicated IMANI, that IMANI did have a point.
Let's
clear the issue.
Let's be fair. I don't think there was a vindication of IMANI in entirety.
I haven't said that.
Of course, we have dealt with the specifics, and our audiences are aware.
To the extent that they've raised,
to
the extent that they've raised an issue that is bringing more answers, I think that's fine. That's the principle.
So something, this matter of, is this a new discovery? It's not a new discovery. Government should show consistency. There ought to be certainty, because this is about our resources, which can transform this country. I have here the state.
You're saying partly government confused the money when government was speaking about wells, new wells. That means new discovery.
You see, I'm going to read from the State of the Nation address, 21st February 2019, the latest one by His Excellency the President. The President said, quote, and I was in Parliament that day, there was a rapturous applause after this paragraph. There has been good news with the recent announcement by AKER Energy of one of the biggest oil finds in Africa. One of the biggest oil finds in Africa. Mr. Speaker, this has led me to think that an MPP government must be good for Ghana. After many, many years of our looking and almost giving up, it took an MPP government to discover oil in 2007. In 8 years of NDC administration, 13 oil block deals were signed, and not a single one was developed. The first one signed in 2017, under my government, which was AKER, has led to the second biggest oil discovery in Africa. Enough to make a believer of anyone, I might say. I mean, fanfare, jubilation, and all of that. Now we are being told that we don't need a new PA because it's not a new discovery, which is which. I'm glad that the point of the 10% which we have lost, and the fact that this new arrangement, we in the minority had put out a statement before the IMANI event, and our energy committee had analyzed and said that we were losing at least $7.2 billion because the 10% is out. And as Alex Mould said, initially they were offering the 10% to us for $47 million.
Because now, we had the preemptive right.
Yes. Now you sell 50%, or you offer 50% to AKER for $100 million. It's clear that if we had negotiated, if our leaders were minded to pursue the national interest, more vigorously, more genuinely, we would have even brought that figure down. The $47 million would have come down. Then the royalties. We are now under the old PA of 4% and 10%, when we could actually be making 10% and 15% in carried interest and the royalties. So there are so many issues. And you see, something, I have here the technical report from GMPC.
Now, before you go to the technical report, let me announce that due to the extension that Newsfile has been offered, Joy Sports Link with Nathaniel Atto comes off at 12:30 in the next 7 minutes or so. It will discuss the highs and lows of the first round of the Normalization Committee special competition. Don't miss this with Nathaniel Atto. Yes.
If you read this technical advice from GMPC on three grounds: commercial, legal, and technical. I mean, something. Everything IMANI has said is confirmed here. Virtually everything that IMANI has said. The legal issues that have been raised, the technical people at GMPC, clause 4, says in the POD submitted to the minister, AKER Energy unusually states that its implementation is conditional on the following: A, governmental approval given without conditions and or terms imposed that negatively affect the project economy for the pecan field development and or negatively affect the execution of the petroleum operations or activities related to the petroleum resources as described in this integrated POD. B, subsequent developments of petroleum resources within the development and production area shall be subject to the same fiscal terms as for the DWT CTP pecan field development. C, the term of the petroleum agreement is extended to cessation of production in 2049. It is instructive that AKER Energy, while imposing such conditions, does not redress their validity within the context of the applicable law. Our analysis of these conditions precedent and their legal implications are provided below. And they go on.
All right.
This is the GMPC technical, the GMPC technical advice.
So you are saying it's been cured
to the minister.
Yeah, but that's the central question he has. So what has happened after that? That's the most important thing. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
10% has
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Then there's another $2.2 billion sole sourcing.
Okay.
Are you aware of the sole sourcing?
Okay, 2 seconds.
You see, there's so many issues.
Let's hear IMANI. 2 seconds.
Are you aware of that?
2 seconds is up.
Yes, I mean, look,
Yeah.
we have been handed an unenviable job of sometimes having to bail the cat, and it is a difficult job. I like what Gabi says, that we are going to get 55%. By God, I hope it's true. Again, what we are asking for is, please do the work, get that signed in an agreement, and dear Gabi, dear Minister, dear everybody, present it so that we know that of all the plenty noise we have made, Ghana got something. I hope we get 55%. Thank you.
And let's fight for that.
Thank
10%.
you. Thank you very much, all of you. Do I have some time to read some messages?
Yeah, we need it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I can't read your messages. I've got quite a few here, but this is where we bring down the curtains on today's edition extended. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini, and my guests have been Abdul Malik Kubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper.
Just a point.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is very naughty on my part. See, I'm told I was not properly fitted.
You're wearing...
I was not properly fitted.
Okay. Okay, I hear.
No, I mean the mic.
Yeah, the mic.
Poorly done.
Yeah.
And it's on social media already.
Okay. But what's important is that you are heard very
That's
loudly.
the point.
Yeah.
Right.
And Aisha still loves you.
Right.
I hear you. No, which one? Which one?
Not Aisha.
Okay, so that's the Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, who defies the Daily Guide and the police, CID, and makes emphatic statements that they have not been found anywhere. Samuel Okujetua Blakwa is MP, North Tongue, and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. Kofi Bentil is Senior Vice President of IMANI Africa. He's also a lawyer. Dr. Theo Echampong is petroleum economist and political risk analyst. We also spoke to Alex Mould, who is the former GNPC boss. Have a good afternoon. My outfit, as always, is by Latida.